Why do we love the people we're actually supposed to hate? The Joker blows up a hospital. Tyler Durden burns his entire credit history to the ground. Walter White lets someone choke to death. And we call it iconic. You've done it too. Rooted for the murderer. Because villains don't just reflect the story that we are in, they also reflect the parts that we pretend that are not there. But are we really that twisted? We like to think we root for truth, but more and more as time goes by, we don't. We root for rage, for revenge, for chaos. Maybe it's fatigue with the perfect heroes, or maybe villains are the only ones allowed to say the things that we are not.
Time kills everything.
We grew up on stories of Dharma, but somewhere along the way, the lines just blurred. Now, we cheer for the monster who's honest instead of the hero who's pretending. Because when we root for villains, we're not just cheering for evil, we're grieving for the versions of ourselves that never actually got justice. Let's begin with one of the original villains. Let's begin with Ravan. A ruler whose city Lanka was said to actually rival Ayodhya in prosperity, in engineering and intellect. In the Ramayana from Tamil Nadu, Ravana is not a pure villain. He's a tragic figure. He was ambitious, prideful, deeply intelligent and heartbreakingly flawed. In the Thai version, the Ramakien, his complexity was actually preserved. His sin was avenging his sister, Surpanaka, who was mutilated and humiliated for actually expressing desire. His abduction of Sita, while unjustifiable, was not senseless. It came from wounded pride, wounded grief. As mythologist Devdutt Patnaik puts it, the Ramayana is not just about good defeating evil. It's about dharma confronting adharma.
रामायण है वो हमेशा मानसिक होता है.
Ravan's downfall is not just evil's punishment. It's dharma's lesson about ego, about consequence and perspective. Now take Karna from the Mahabharata. He was born divine, he was raised marginalized. He was loyal to the one man who gave him dignity, not the brothers who actually abandoned him. When Krishna offers him truth, his lineage, a throne, a legacy, Karna refuses. Not because he's ignorant, because he's already chosen loyalty over blood. In Peter Brook's Mahabharata, Karna stands with some outstretched into like a crucified figure, rejected by both gods and by men, a symbol of what happens when greatness is denied by birth. Modern audiences don't see Karna as a villain, they see him as the system's casualty. Now enter Walter White. A man we meet as a struggling chemistry teacher.
Chemistry is the study of matter.
He was diagnosed with cancer, he was working 2 jobs, he was unable to provide for his family. His descent was never sudden, it's incremental. One choice, and then another, and then another. A little lie, a bigger lie, and then he was silent as Jane dies right in front of him. No flinch, no blink, just cold control. Not because he's evil, because she was in the way of his plans. Walter justifies everything in the name of family. But when he finally says,
I did it for me,
that's when the mask drops. He's not a monster. He's a man who got mistook for his ego, for his purpose. That's why it hurts. Because we believed him too. Because a part of us wanted him. Across cultures, the villain isn't just evil. They are the outcast. They are the scapegoat. And the one who couldn't follow the rules because the rules never included them. Medea kills her children, but only after Jason betrays her. She says, anger is stronger than reason. And while her actions actually terrify us, her pain speaks to us. Loki was never chaos for fun. That was just for the children. He's chaos because he's excluded. The gods laugh at him, then they punish him when he bites back. Killmonger, on the other hand, in Black Panther, isn't just a madman. He's an orphan of an empire. His final line was,
just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships.
That's not villainy, it's ancestral memory. Even Michael Corleone from The Godfather starts a war hero. He doesn't want his father's legacy, but the system of masculinity, honor, survival pulls him in. By the end, he sacrificed everyone for power and sits alone in silence. Here's why all of this resonates to us as humanity. These characters aren't written for us to agree with them. They're written for us to understand why they broke. Because they aren't just villains, they're us if no one intervened. They're what happened when the wound becomes the story. And that's why we're drawn to them. Not because they're right, because they make our pain feel visible. Pain, when told with clarity, it doesn't alienate us from them as characters. It magnetizes us as humans to these villains. And now let's go deeper. We've seen how villains across time and culture carry the weight of history, betrayal, exclusion. But what happens when those stories just turn inward? inside us. Carl Jung called this the shadow self, the part of us that we repress, the rage, the envy, the lust, insecurity, self-importance. We hide them not just from others, but from ourselves. And stories, they give those shadows a shape, a name, a motive. Villains aren't scary because they're foreign. They're scary because they're familiar. When Walter White says,
I am the one who knocks.
it's not just an ego trip. It's the suppressed hunger for control finally unleashed. It's every time we've swallowed our frustration, even when told to play small, and we've wondered what it might be actually feeling like to be feared instead of overlooked in society. When Joker dances on the steps in Joker, he's not celebrating violence, he's reclaiming visibility. He's saying, if the world won't see me in the light, I'll make them watch me in the dark. And that's powerful. These moments resonate not because we're endorsing them, because we've imagined them in the silence of rejection, in the bitterness of invisibility, in those fleeting thoughts that never say aloud, but we know too well. They're the power of this shadow. Villains embody that, but we try to bury them, and in doing so, they offer this kind of catharsis to us. They release the pressure without us acting it out. They let us explore these consequences without us becoming that consequence. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. We don't cheer because we want to be the villain. We cheer because for once, our darkness isn't ignored, it's acknowledged. And in a world that constantly rewards perfection, villains give us that permission to be flawed, to be angry, to be human. But we don't want to stay in that shadow. But sometimes we need to walk through it to understand our way out. But here's the danger. The more we empathize with villains, the easier it is to excuse them, to mistake trauma for truth, revenge for justice, power for purpose. So how do we draw this particular line? How do we stay human without romanticizing cruelty? The key is intention. Great storytelling doesn't make the villain right. It makes them understandable. It gives us empathy, not permission. The best stories don't justify evil. They show us how it's made, and in doing so, they actually teach us how to break this vicious cycle that we're in. And here's why villains go viral today and what that means for storytellers. Today's villains don't wear capes. They wear virality. They trend. They monetize their trauma. They turn shock into screen time. TikTok or Instagram edits of Joe Goldberg from the web series You rack up 80 million views every week. Daenerys burning cities gets us cut to empowerment anthems. Even real-life manipulators, from cult leaders to serial cheaters, are being reframed as misunderstood. And here's what's wild. We're not just watching stories anymore. We're curating which one of those stories win. Our hearts, our likes, our follows, our shares, our reposts. Because in a world where visibility equals power, the villain's arc has become the blueprint for attention today. Why? Because your brain is not wired for peace. It's wired for arousal. High arousal emotions like anger, awe, anxiety are the ones that spike engagement. That's not opinion. It's a 2019 study in Nature Communications. And in storytelling, these characters with moral ambiguity, the ones who blur the reason between pain and power, get more attention, not less. According to a 2020 study in the Journal of Media Psychology, viewers actually rate morally grey characters as more realistic and are more likely to be binge watching them. And when villains act out what we suppress, the algorithm pays attention. And so do we, because rage is easier to sell than repair. So the question becomes, if you're a storyteller, how do you use this power without becoming part of the problem? How do you hold attention without hijacking empathy? Here's a framework I want to offer you. Something I call the VEIL framework. It's a reminder, what even that you're showing darkness, you can still protect the soul of your story. Let's break this down. So from the VEIL framework, V means vulnerability first. And this is key trademark for anyone writing their villains. Start with what hurts, not what shocks. Because when we see real vulnerability, our mirror neurons fire. We feel the character, not just for them. So you don't start with the murder, you don't start with the violent actions, you start with what's actually triggering them. Now, E stands for emotional disruption. Give your villain a reversal, a contradiction. Don't just let them break the rules. Let them break the patterns that society has. That is what spikes dopamine. That's what makes us pay attention. And I is for internal logic. It makes the villain's motives emotionally legible to us. Even if we hate what they do, we should understand why they did it. Even if they're a serial killer or a murderer or someone who's going to go ahead and destroy the whole world, there should be reasoning for it. That's when the oxytocin kicks in. That's when the story gets personal. And L is for lifting the curtain. Tell us what this story costs. Let the audience feel the weight of what we reward as society. Because when we aestheticize destruction without showing the price, we don't just lose context, we lose our entire moral compass. And that puts society in a path of major destruction. So if you're a creator, don't just aestheticize pain, contextualize it. Because you don't just show the villain's power, you show their cost. You don't just trigger those emotions, you guide them. Because the best storytellers aren't just architects of attention, they're the custodians of what we call purpose and meaning. And if you're an audience, a viewer, next time a reel makes you feel powerful, just ask yourself once, is this helping me process something real? Or am I just giving myself a shortcut to numbness? Because if we keep rewarding the characters who burn the world down, eventually we'll forget to build anything at all. Maybe the question isn't why do we root for villains? Maybe I was wrong all this time. Maybe it's which part of ourselves do they actually speak to? The outcast? The rebel? The child who never got picked? Villains let us touch our rage without consequence. But real power is not rage. It's integration. It's seeing that shadow and not letting it drive us. It's understanding the villain and not choosing to become them. Not because every time we hit play on a story, we're not just choosing what to watch, we're choosing who we are. If this made you rethink a character you've always loved or hated, drop their name below. Let's talk about the villains who shaped us and what that says about the stories we need. And subscribe for more breakdowns of why stories work. Because the stories we love are never just stories.